Good morning. It is at 7 o'clock on today's show. The Chancellor's plans to plug a £20 billion black hole in the public finances.
Remember when the Tories returned to power in 2010 and then spent the next decade blaming Labour for the financial crisis? It was, of course, complete bollocks. But what isn't bollocks is the catastrophic damage the Conservative Party willfully inflicted on the country and its economy with their flagship policy of Brexit before leaving office. So now let's make sure we hold them accountable for it by having a frank and honest discussion about the catastrophic damage it's inflicted on the economy. In fact, Labour should now be absolutely hammering what's left of the Conservative Party with it, because by almost every economic and financial measure, the Tories' Brexit has been disastrous for the UK. And now finally at last we have an opportunity to have a grown-up, open and frank conversation about it. A conversation which the former Conservative government repeatedly refused to engage in. And you wonder why. Labour has clearly been given a mandate to grow the economy, and that has to mean fixing the disastrous damage the Conservative Party has inflicted on the economy with its Brexit.
The deal is a thin agreement. It does not provide adequate protections for British manufacturing, our financial services, creative industries, or workplace rights. It is not the deal that the government promised. Far from it.
Strong words from the then leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, describing Boris Johnson's oven-ready Brexit deal in December 2020. The description was spot on. The OBR, that's the Office for Budget Responsibility, says Brexit will reduce the UK's potential GDP by 4% in the long run by lowering the trade intensity of the economy. Goldman Sachs puts it at 5%, and the National Institute of Economic and Social Research calculates it at up to 6%.
We need three things: growth, growth, growth.
That's absolutely right. But thanks to Brexit, UK business is now being crucified by additional red tape and extra costs, and it just got worse. New post-Brexit UK border controls, which came into force in April, are estimated to cost British businesses £2 billion and will likely fuel higher inflation. And the UK goods trade has suffered its steepest five-year fall on record, with economists saying this highlights how Brexit has reduced flows both into and out of Britain, which isn't exactly surprising given Brexit involved the country walling itself off from a trading bloc made up of its nearest neighbours, making it harder both to sell your stuff and buy their stuff. And if that's not bad enough, the Resolution Foundation has cited the economic effects of Brexit as one of the factors which have acted to suppress wage growth, which brings us back to this.
Growth, growth, growth.
Bloomberg has calculated that Brexit is costing the UK £100 billion a year in lost output. That's quite a Tory legacy. It's roughly £40 billion less for the new Labour government to invest in the UK. Just think about that. It's £40 billion less to invest in our hospitals and our schools and our public services that we all rely on. So if the Prime Minister is serious about
growth, growth, growth,
we now need to have a proper grown-up conversation about the negative impact of Brexit. We have to look again at the frictions and the trade barriers Brexit has created. And we need to do it urgently for all the small and medium-sized companies that are the backbone of British business. They're trying to export to the EU, and because of the huge amount of paperwork, change in regulations and extra costs, many are giving up. Every week we're losing growth and trade with the EU, and that just can't continue. So what should we do next? Well, for starters, how about a thorough official review of the impact of Brexit? There's been no comprehensive government study to examine the consequences sector by sector and region by region, presumably because the last government didn't want to know the answers. So let's now have that honest conversation, because only if we do that, and only if we're willing to recognise the damage caused, can we start to fix it, and then we really can start to grow the economy.